Well, it's another active day in weather across the country as another winter storm targets areas of the northeast while triggering strong and severe thunderstorms throughout the southeast. That outlook right now being an enhanced risk throughout areas of Louisiana into Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama. But what if I were to tell you that this severe weather setup and winter storm associated with it, and as well as the storm that hit just a couple of days prior that also produced a similar risk for severe weather, is going to happen again in 6 weeks? And I know this because the weather patterns are cycling. Every fall around October 6th when the sun sets and it goes full darkness at the North Pole, a unique weather pattern sets up in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that pattern is a unique number of days long, but it cycles over and over again until a new one sets up the following year. This weather pattern that's affecting us today and over the last couple days and the next several days has already happened. It happened back in January, roughly about 6 weeks ago. That brings us back to the 5th, which was another major winter storm. It produced blizzard warnings in areas of Kansas and rode all the way into the northeast just after a storm did a similar thing a couple of days prior, and another storm followed just behind this one, which will eventually produce snow along the Gulf Shore in about 10 days from this exact date. Now, this weather pattern, as I mentioned, is occurring again today on the 15th of March. We have one storm that's leaving, this next storm that's affecting us now, and our third storm, which will eventually rein in, and in about 10 days from now, we'll see another storm that affects the U.S. These weather patterns are very similar, and they're roughly 41 days apart. And if we were to go back another cycle, or 41 days from the 5th of January, it would bring us to the 25th of November. And a very similar weather pattern, just shifted a bit further to the north. We have one storm that's leaving, one storm that's affecting the central north portion of the U.S., and a third storm that's brewing, while the next one is off to the west of Alaska. These weather patterns, again, are continuing to cycle, and they're going to cycle again in another 6 weeks, where we will see another risk for severe weather in a very similar spot. Here's our risk for severe weather today. That is that enhanced risk, but 6 weeks ago on the 5th of January, it was another enhanced risk through areas of Louisiana into Mississippi, and even 6 weeks before this, another risk in a very similar spot as that jet stream was much weaker and much further to the north. Again, this will likely produce another risk for some severe weather, and we'll call it now a high probability of producing a severe weather outbreak in a similar location across mostly Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and up towards Tennessee. Very similar as it has today on the 15th into the 16th of February, and similarly as it did back on the 5th of January. Now, as I mentioned, there was another winter storm and a severe weather risk that was associated just a couple of days prior to the storm we're looking at on the 15th of February. And it also will happen again in about 6 weeks, just a couple days before this storm, around the 25th of March. I discuss a little bit about this setup and as well the storms that hit prior to the storms we're talking about in this video. Here in this episode right here, Severe Weather Setups March 2025, a 6 and 8 week prediction. And as well back in January when this storm first hit on the 4th, we touched a bit about how the weather patterns are recycling, and the storm that's going to hit just a few days after this, well, it's coming and it's in the models right now. After this storm we're talking about right now rolls out of here on the 15th and 16th of February, we'll watch for Arctic air to cool down into the country and another storm to dive down to the south, riding throughout the Gulf Coast and into the eastern half of the country on the 19th of February, eventually riding up into the northeast. Now, this winter storm is a part of a much larger weather pattern, and that is the LRC, and it as well will happen again to a similar degree in about 6 weeks, or around the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of April, and it as well, or this storm, was talked about in a prior video found on the channel here, and that would be Big Severe Weather Setups April 2025, and as well a bit in a couple of our other videos. I'm going to continue to make more of these videos highlighting specific dates and weeks, part of these weather patterns that are going to re-emerge here in the future and produce severe weather setups and outlooks. So if you find what you've listened to so far fairly interesting, or if you just want to hold my feet to the fire and see if any of these predictions actually happen, hit that like and subscribe button. Remember, hit the bell notification. You'll get notified whenever I put more of these videos up here. But these storms, again, that hit back in January, are currently happening right now. It's about 41 days from the 5th of January, and about 41 days from now, or about 6 weeks as we head towards the end of March, the same exact pattern is going to happen again. And as well as we look 2 cycles, or 82 days from now, we'll see a very similar weather pattern happening again around the 8th of May. And as well, a few of the other predictions made in the other videos will happen just before and just after.